Some 3 years ago, I explained some of the capabilities and limitations of artillery, and that there was more to say. So, for the disciples of St. Barbara, I returned to this topic. Now, normally in these videos I would refer to some real-world US manual for artillery, such as FM 3-90.1 or FM 6-50, but for the purposes of this video, it's not really relevant, so I won't. If one pays attention to the deployment patterns of a typical World of Tanks game, one will see that upon game start, there is a refined artillery driver's technique of looking around the spawn point, then finding a nice looking bush or wooded area nearby, normally to the rear, and setting up shop there. And, normally, staying there until the endgame. This thus leads to some fairly predictable standard counter moves. Knowing that many artillery pieces establish themselves near the spawn zone, or a few other very likely places such as the western corners of Moran, enemy vehicles will routinely choose positions and routings which provide cover from artillery fire from those directions, i.e. they will hug a rock or building. Further, in the event of an enemy medium or light breaking through the lines in the hope of raiding an artillery park, there are 1 or 2 likely places that they will go looking first. The game proceeds as normal from this point on. I had mentioned before that too many artillery drivers seem to forget that they have tracks and an engine. Some are also quite nimble. With few exceptions, such as low-angle artillery pieces on certain maps, there is no particular reason for artillery to go to the typical setup location, and several reasons not to. I recommend getting as close to the front line as is safe for the following reasons. Shorter time of flight. Artillery can take 2 or 3 seconds from firing to impact at longer range. A lot can happen in those 2 or 3 seconds. The target could be killed by something else. A friendly vehicle could charge into the impact zone. The target could, of all horrors, move. If the target is moving anyway, well, leading is more simple. Just this one factor alone can dramatically increase your effectiveness as artillery. Smaller aiming circle. Like any gun, effective accuracy diminishes with range. It is quite frustrating to wait 30 seconds to load, fire at minimum aiming circle size, and still result in a complete miss. Smaller range means that the round is more likely to be effective. With your low rate of fire, you can't afford to miss. New firing angles open up. Moving closer to the front line automatically will result in changes of dead zones where you cannot shoot. Enemy vehicles you could not hit because they were behind a large rock or building suddenly become very easy targets because they are normally stationary in their misguided belief of being, quote, arty safe. A tip for those folks: if you think you are safe from artillery and suddenly receive an unexpected blast of high explosive, newsflash, you're not. The correct course of action at this point is to relocate, which actually is also the real-world course of action as well. Not to just sit there, receive a second or third round, and then rant about how cowardly artillery is OP because it can kill you after a minute and a half of firing from a hidden location when you were supposedly taking cover. You will be safer when the inevitable Lynx or EBR comes blasting through your rear lines. I don't care how many times you click the minimap or hit help. Your teammates aren't going to come to your aid. They either don't care, are too busy, or will be too late to save you in the unlikely event that they come back. Indeed, luring tanks away from the front line to chase down a light is a good tactic to enable an overall victory, as it takes those tanks out of the fight without even firing a shot. Accept this reality long before you give up on rescue, prepare in vain to defend yourself, and then lambast your team for letting the enemy through after you die. If, however, you acted proactively and are closer to the front line, your teammates will be more than willing to engage an enemy vehicle which has come to them because you are close to them. You may actually survive. On a related note, counter-battery is much less of a threat also because you're not normally where the enemy artillery is looking. As for what counter-battery is, there's something of a sweet spot in the mid-tiers where it's most feasible. If you are looking in your top-down view at a general area where the enemy artillery is, you may see the trace of the round being fired. Aim at the point of origin. However, blink and you miss it. At higher tiers, where a round is fired once every 30 seconds, it may be a waste of your time holding fire in the hope of seeing a trace. At lower tiers, however, when rounds are fired more rapidly, it becomes a more viable option. That's it for this lesson. I'm Nicholas Moran, the Chieftain, and I will see you on the next one.